So welcome back. This is second part of our guerrilla coaching night, and the second player that we are going to analyze today is going to be ilari27's. This is $7 sit and go. I think this is normal speed because it had 140 something hands. And I'm Aarnimetsa from pokerimania.com. So let's dig right through. And ilari27 wanted to have a VPIP is true filter here. So we are only watching hands that Ilari has put some money in and try to see if there are some interesting spots. 7-4 suited. I think this is an okay call for the just the pot odds, and this is going to be bit on the edge because we are having the worst possible position post flop, but I still think it's going to be profitable. We are going to get more than 30%, 13% in a three-way pot, and if when we don't hit, it's an easy hand to just check fold. Played to perfection, pretty much. I hope this is a raise somewhere around 60 to 75 chips would be nice. I think 90 chips it's okay, but I prefer to have the lower sizings, as I think generally people are going to fold too much. And we are getting some resistance. And if opponent checks, I think this is going to be a spot that we need to continuation bet. And I think it would be really profitable to c bet here. And Danita, this is a 9 max sit and go, yes. And when the 6 comes, I would still like to have a bet here, like 100 chips. Because I think that even though this means that your opponent might have a really good hand with just one card, it also means that the board is probably going to look pretty dangerous for him as well. And when he bets, I think we need to fold, even though we have two overcards. And he might have had some kind of a two pair hand, or he might have had the 9, or he might have had complete air. And I think that if we would have c-bet, it would be much better for our equity. Generally, if an opponent checks to you and you are in position, you pretty much you wanna c-bet pretty much everything that doesn't stand to gain a lot of equity or doesn't have a lot of showdown equity, and you couldn't carry it to the showdown if you are betting it now. So like hands that you don't want to pot control with, you wanna c-bet, and you wanna c-bet the most crappy hands like 3 deuce off there, because in general I think that opponents are going to fold too much to a c-bet in position. And I don't think that King Jack off is going to be a hand it has 6 outs to bigger pairs, and so even some of those outs are going to be uncomfortable outs because they are going to be hots. So there are like 4 outs to improve, and I'm thinking that on those grounds you would like to c-bet this rather than just check. And one of my like basic points would be that if you don't know what to do, choose the most aggressive option. And this is a good spot to open. I like if it's for 150 chips. That I don't like, and I would personally open to something somewhere like a min raise or 110 chips. Min raise is great here. We got the pot played to perfection. I'd still like to have a small bet here, and I think that is really good. And now it's a bit different situation. I think that when we are having two overcards and we are having a gutshot straight draw, I think we should just call here and realize our equity. Because our opponent gives us really good odds to draw, so let's just draw here. We don't like the 10 that much. It's not horrible, but we don't like it that much. If opponent still bets small, we are like 18%. I think that we are still having about, if we are calculating about 9 to 8 outs here, it's going to be on the edge even if we don't get anything from our opponent if we hit. And there are some parts of our range that if we hit, we want to value bet. And we are quite likely of getting value from our opponent if we hit the queen, so I would make a call here still. And when we don't hit and our opponent has been betting into us, he bets, even though it's a small bet. There are some hands that we are some hands that we are beating here that are basically busty draws like queen jack, queen 8, jack 8, or most of the hard flush draws. And we don't require more than 13%. I just think that our opponent most likely has a weak hand, so something like a pair of nines or something with those really weak bets, so I would probably fold here even though we get good odds because I don't think that we are having enough. There's not enough crap on opponent's range that will go for a small bet, small bet, small bet. Wow! And this might look that this might look insane, but actually it's not. As I said just a moment ago, that most likely hand for our opponent is a medium strength hand. When our opponent has a medium to weak strength hand that he blocker or like makes a small blocker type of bets, does that kind of hand stand any heat? No, it doesn't. So I think that this is this is a really ballsy move. But I think that this is not going to be the best possible move here. I don't think that you are getting enough folds. And the reason is the same, that I don't think that there is enough crap in the opponent's range. And I think that there will be opponents that are like sometimes calling this with a stupid hand. This is a ballsy move for sure, and as for the previous hand that I said that if you have an option to select the aggressive option, you should always do it, but I think this is going to. I don't think that risk to reward ratio would be suitable to shove here. And luckily, we don't get called, and we. This is awesome. I wouldn't think that our opponent would ever fold an ace here. So perhaps it was good, or it. Like, if opponent folds an ace here, so practically he's only calling with tens. Then this always becomes good, because there doesn't need to be that much crap in his range if he treats his aces with an aces as crap. So I'm thinking that this guy screwed this hand up totally, and Ilari pretty much abused this guy screwing up this hand so totally. And if you showed this, this is like insta tilt for the other opponent. As I said, that was a ballsy move, and I'm thinking that you are probably giggling to yourself there that got him good there. Those are probably hands that are going to feel better than they should. And Ilari said that he never has a 10. Yeah, that's also true. I'm thinking that opponents are always calling an ace there at least, and there will be opponents that are calling a 9 there. And our opponent had both an ace and a 9, and he didn't call it. And his AX is just a bluff catcher though. Yeah, it is a bluff catcher. But also if you are thinking about Ilari's range, like when all of the draws miss, how strong can Ilari's range be? Of course, opponents are not likely, like even in $7 games, if an opponent is not a good reg, I don't think that the opponents are thinking about how strong is your range that much. They are still playing a bit too much on their own cards. This needs to be a raise to somewhere around 200, 250. That's good. You can go for a bit higher. You can go for a bit higher, especially if you aren't having regs on the table or regs that are against you there. And I don't think that, for example, this guy probably never can be a reg. And this should be always a shove. Did we miss something? Because Ilari now has a lot less chips left than he did a moment ago. So this was a bet. We got the pot here. This was a bet and we got the pot there. How on earth did we fall? We are filtering for every VPIP hand and now we have dropped to 5 big blinds. Or actually these blinds have increased so much so we just have folded like half of the stack away. So this is a great shove with any ace. Or like not even any ace. This is a great shove against a fishy looking player with any hand. Like deuce 3 off is a great hand to shove there. And then we have folded our way in the money, and queen 8 suited, great hand to shove. Not a lot to look there. Our opponent min raises. And this is going to be an interesting hand. And this is going to be a really interesting hand. And I don't like a shove here. Shove would be a bit better if the stack would be the other way around, because then this guy couldn't call your shove pretty much with anything. But when this larger stack is acting first after you, I'm thinking that calling will be better equity than shoving here. And this is a great call. And when we are having only one pot left, we are having 2 overcards and a gutshot straight draw. I would like to see a shove here. Our stack situation is pretty dire, and I think that we are having good equity against pretty much any hand that could call us here. So I would love to see a shove here. And even the biggest stack can't call us that easily because there's still a big stack behind him. So those big stacks are also adding some coverage to us as well. And great shove. And if this is a shove, it's a no-brainer. And this as well. As I said earlier, like this is a guy that you don't want to be, probably you don't want to be shoving too much against, but you are still going to shove at least Nash hands. And king 10 off. King 6 suited. I'm thinking that this is going to be a good open. Wouldn't be a good shove, but good open. Would be a good min raise. I think with these stack sizes, you don't want to be limping that much, even though your opponent has a good re-steal stack. This could be a limp as well if an opponent is really 3-bet happy, but I think that min raising here in general is better. And Ilari, probably I missed that the last player showed Queen Jack of hearts when you push the Jack 10 suited. Usually I don't look at what the other players have showed. And this is a good min raise. Then then this starts to get a bit more interesting. Our opponent just calls. We don't have the top pair, but we are having a decent pair. And this is then a question, what do we do here? I think when an opponent is that aggressive that he is, I don't think that he's going to have ace often here, as this is going to be a pretty good 3-bet. Pretty good spot to re-steal shove, so I'm thinking probably a c-bet for value here would be good. And check isn't that far behind. I just think that our opponent has ace so rarely that we could start to be a bit greedy. And on the turn at least, when opponent also checked behind, I'm thinking that we are getting more out of him if we are betting ourselves than if we are letting him bet. When he bets, if we fold this, it's going to be pretty horrible, but if we call this, I think it's going to be good. And even in the river, when we have gone for check call, I think that on the river we should check call everything less than a pot here. I think this is still a call. King 7 off. So this is one of the points that a line that you are not betting yourself but letting your opponent bluff. It might work sometimes, and it worked brilliantly here. I just think that in general you are getting, on average you are getting more chips in if you are value betting yourself. But this time around it worked. It worked well. This is only 10 big blinds deep, so shove every time. And Calleon likes check call line versus play like that in Queen 9. Yeah, it's going to be okay if your opponent starts betting out. But generally, if your opponent checks behind on the flop, he's going to be quite likely to check behind on the turn as well. So at the turn, I think that betting is going to be way better. And even in the flop, I think that betting will be slightly better. But on the turn, I think that betting will be way better on average. And this time around, I think this time around we got more by not betting ourselves. But on the average, I think that we are getting more. And to remind you, as this is a guerrilla coaching, this is going to be all about your hand histories, and there's still time to send me your hand histories for the third raffle. Pocket aces, easy min raise. You get shoved on, that's great. Aces always love action. And then it's going to be heads up. Like on heads up, I would probably like to see more than what you are not playing than what you are playing. Because I think that's probably going to be more important. And min raising king 6 off. Okay. Let's see how many hands there are. There are like 7 hands. Min raise going to be okay, and when you get 3-bet shoved with about 30 big blinds deep, you wanna be folding it. And against this kind of a guy, that with heads up, with 3-handed and heads up play, if he's folding his big blind to steal about 70% of the time, you want to be min raising every single hand. Like with these stack depths, if your opponent is playing 30% of hands back at you, you are so printing money by pressing the bet button, no matter what the hands. Every time your opponent is folding more than about 46%, when you are having antes like this, you are making money if you are just pressing the bet button, even if you would have 0% equity on all the flops and you would just fold all the flops. And in real life, of course, if you are getting to the flop, you are having some equity. So like in this heads up, I'm thinking that you are making more of a mistake on those hands that you are not playing. And when your opponent is opening really rarely, I'm thinking that something like queen ten off, I would probably not be able to fold this because it plays so well and you are still having plenty of chips behind. But I would be pretty tight in playing against this kind of a player. Like probably when he opens I'm only playing about top 30% back, but it's only because he's so tight. And yeah, when he's so tight and there's a king on the board and you are having two undercards, just check fold. And like now we are cheering for Ilari every time he presses the bet button. Because the bet button is like make money button here. And I'm more worried because I'm only seeing good hands. And Jack 9 suited, strong enough. And now we have seen that an opponent has picked up his pace and started to open a lot more from the small blind. And now I'm probably playing about 50 or 60% of hands. Probably about 50%. And we hit pretty nicely, to say the least. Opponent bets. And we are just now thinking about how we get the most money in, and so we are going to go for check calling. There is no cards that we are afraid of. And opponent shoves. That makes it pretty easy for us. Call, and I hope you win. You win, yeah. Easy peasy. Deuce 5 off. Seems to be a pretty great hand when your opponent has 1.5 big blinds. When your opponent has about 2 big blinds, you are playing every hand. Every single hand from the small blind. And when your opponent has about 3 big blinds, you are calling also every hand from the big blind. And queen 9 is going to be a pretty solid hand to call. I think like from the hands that Ilari has played, I think that there is one really ballsy play, and I think there is one play that you could have gotten more. You could have gotten more by c-betting a bit more aggressively. And on the heads up, when I'm seeing that from three-handed and heads up, you are having like 58% of open from small blind, and I hadn't seen a single limp from you on heads up. I'm thinking that you are probably folding way too much in the heads up. In the heads up phase. Actually, let's do a quick on not like voluntarily put money in pot, but let's go for only heads up and small blind. So let's go now for the heads up small blind, and how often does Ilari press the make money button? Or how often does he not? There is one raise fold, and there is like folded 10-5 off and 8 deuce off. And when this 8 deuce off is one of the latest hands, I'm thinking this is a horrible mistake and this is a mistake. If I'm seeing an opponent that has folded 70% and I have had like 5 more hands on heads up and he's still folding as much, then I'm thinking that 8 deuce off is going to be a horrible mistake to fold. And that might sound completely insane, but it is. If you are making money even with no equity on the flop, then it's like pre-flop. It's I think in that spot when you are losing 125 chips by, and you are on average like 70% of the time, if you are switching that to 225 plus, it's going to be really good for you. And that's probably something that most people don't look on their games, that what if. And let's say right now that there is 2 minutes time to send me your hand histories and then be online on the chat to say that you want to take part in the raffle for the final guerrilla coaching. And it might be a bit bit shorter. I actually must say that I enjoyed Ilari's hand history a lot because there were a lot of really interesting hands. So well done, Ilari. That's an interesting hand history, and I think both players, Danita and Ilari, played pretty well in their sessions. At least on those parts that we have seen. I'm trying to see my PMs. That have I gotten more hand histories? And Legiani said that that would be funny if I would be the only one in the raffle and I wouldn't win. Actually, you are pretty close of being the only one in the raffle and you wouldn't win, because I thought that if we are already too late in the session. And for Ilari, I need to say that the hand that you had with the really ballsy hand that you had there, the hand that you shoved on the river, that was pretty awesome. No, Legianis, we are going to have the final third session. And now I'd pretty much say that when Legianis is in the chat, he's going to win the final raffle, and we are going to come back with Legianis' hand history on 22:45. So there is about 7 minutes of break for me to get everything working.